We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Thousands of protesters blocked entry to Hong Kong's government headquarters, delaying a legislative session on a proposed extradition bill.
U.S. President Trump touted that he called a beautiful and very warm letter that he received Monday from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
A 5-year-old boy who tested positive for Ebola in Uganda has died, according to the health ministry.
And Church of Christ in South Korea holds cleanup drive.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Thousands of protesters blocked entry to Hong Kong's government headquarters, delaying a legislative session on a proposed extradition bill that has heightened fears over greater Chinese control and erosion of civil liberties in the semi-autonomous territory. The overwhelmingly young crowd overflowed onto a major downtown road as they overturned barriers and tussled with police outside the building that also houses the chambers where the legislature was to discuss the bill, which would allow criminal suspects in Hong Kong to be sent for trial in mainland China. Hong Kong's Chief Secretary for Administration, Matthew Cheung, called on the people who are blocking the roads to leave the road and go back to the pavement as soon as possible so that traffic can return to normal.
今日咧立法會咧原本喺朝頭早11點咧就舉行會議咧，開展逃犯條例修訂草案呢個審議工作嘅。但係咧，由於立法會附近嗰個範圍咧有大量人群嘅阻塞咧，立法會主席係指示呢個會議咧係改咗稍後一段時間先至舉行。係不停咧向後退㗎。
A current government statement also said the session scheduled to begin at 11 a.m. would be changed to a later time, according to an earlier statement from staff members. And staff members were also advised not to go to work. And those already on the premises were told to stay at their working place until further notice. The delay appeared to be at least a temporary victory for the bill's opponents, whose protests have prompted Hong Kong's biggest political crisis since pro-democracy demonstrations closed down parts of downtown for more than 3 months back in 2014. Some businesses closed for the day and labor strikes and class boycotts were called. The protests are a challenge to China's ruling Communist Party and President Xi Jinping, who has in the past said he would not tolerate Hong Kong being used as a base to challenge the party's authority. But they are also giving vent to young Hong Kongers alienated by a political process dominated by territories' economic elite. Protesters said they hope the blockade would persuade Chief Executive Carrie Lam's administration to shelve the proposed amendments to the Fugitive Offenders Ordinance and the Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Ordinance.
Meanwhile, our ABC Hong Kong Bureau has managed to find their way there. Our correspondent Hensley Rivera said groups came prepared with free supplies such as food, drinks, face masks and gloves, and umbrellas ready for a long-haul protest. Here's his update. Hensley?
So last night, people were already distributing leaflets, encouraging people to head on to the Legislative Council last 11 p.m. That is why some groups were at the Admiralty Station as early as 11 p.m. last night, braving the hot and rainy weather. Protest groups came prepared with free supplies such as food, drinks, gloves, umbrellas, and face masks to ready themselves for the long protest until later this evening. A strong presence of police officers in full gear can be seen, and they have intensified their stop and search in the MTR stations and restaurants near the Legislative Council. More than 2,000 protesters showed up last night, and it is increasing more in numbers during this 24-hour protest. One of the protesters that support the youngsters in protesting against the extradition bill says that he is very inspired by their determination in disagreement to this bill. Traffic had been disrupted and major roads had been closed as they are being occupied by the protesters. In fact, offices and establishments are closing early. A bigger crowd is expected later this evening. This is Hans Rivera, EBC correspondent, Hong Kong.
Thank you, Hansley. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of protesters paralyzed central Hong Kong, blocking major roads in a defiant show of strength against government plans to allow extraditions to China. Take a look.
I don't think the use of violence, I don't think I would use justifies to describe it. Rather than that, I will use it is necessary to use violence if the government didn't listen to our opinions peacefully, or we cannot come out a solution through communications. So I think it is necessary.
必要去做一樣嘢，同埋大家都不斷咁呼籲對方就係即係大家理念唔同都好，但係就都係要合作嘅，目標一致嘅，窗口對外嘅。咁我覺得呢樣嘢其實係先乳格之後係一路都冇試過，而今次係第一次咯。
亦都咧係不停咧係施放催淚彈嘅。
Hong Kong legal and executive leaders reacted to the announcement that a highly controversial bill that would allow criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China will proceed to the legislature for debate. Lawyer and member of Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam's Administration Advisory Committee, Ronnie Tong Kawa, said the protest showed a lack of trust in Hong Kong's administration, partly because Lam was picked by Beijing and not elected by a popular vote.
We need to gain the trust and confidence of Beijing so that they can allow us the freedom of political reform.
They don't want to see Hong Kong turn into another Taiwan, or
they don't want to see Hong Kong as a base of subversion. And I'm sorry, I mean, we're doing exactly that. The reported worldwide that 1 million people took to the street.
Patience. However, China's patience with Hong Kong's demands has its limits, according to Tong. Referencing the political formula under which Hong Kong transferred from British to Chinese rule in 1997, Tong said this. Listen to this.
Because it brings... The safeguard is being carried out by our judges. If there comes a day that our judges cannot strictly apply our law, then extradition is the least thing you have to worry about. You have to worry about the rapid deterioration of rule of law in Hong Kong, and with that, one country, two systems. But at this moment, I have every confidence in our judges being able to deal with this in a fair and open manner for the world to see.
Opponents of the proposed extradition amendment say the changes would significantly compromise Hong Kong's legal independence, long viewed as one of the main differences between the territory and mainland China. Hong Kong Bar Association Chair Philip Dyke said a lack of faith in Beijing remained a crucial issue.
The government is asking those people with decades of mistrust suddenly to trust the system and to accept assurances that the mainland would offer that they'll be honoured, and quite clearly that's not persuading the people.
Critics believe the legislation would put Hong Kong residents at risk of being entrapped in China's opaque judicial system, in which political opponents have been charged with economic crimes or ill-defined national security offenses. Hong Kong currently limits extraditions to jurisdictions with which it has existing agreements and to others on an individual basis. China has been excluded from those agreements because of concerns over its judicial independence and human rights record.
Dozens of human rights activists and students gathered outside the Hong Kong consulate in Taipei on Wednesday to denounce proposed amendments to Hong Kong's extradition law. Protesters held signs saying no extradition to China and chanted "Hong Kong government, shame on you," while sitting in outside the consulate. The group was protesting against a proposed extradition bill that has heightened fears over greater Chinese control and erosion of civil liberties in the semi-autonomous territory. Cedric Alviani, the East Asia director of Reporters Without Borders, worried that Beijing could punish those that criticize the government and abduct them legally if the extradition law passes.
Chinese regime has shown on many occasions that they don't need any ground, any solid ground to punish the voices that criticize them. If such regulation was adopted, Beijing would no longer have to abduct residents in Hong Kong. They just could have them legally handed over.
Meanwhile, back in Hong Kong, the police commissioner described the scene around the city's government headquarters as chaotic and called on the protesters to leave the area. Commissioner Stephen Law Wai-Chung told reporters police took action after a large group of masked protesters charged onto the road surrounding the complex in Hong Kong's Admiralty District and started throwing objects, including metal barriers, at officers. Take a listen.
防線受到咁嚴厲嘅衝擊，我哋喺迫不得已之下，唯有使用武器去阻止呢啲暴徒去衝擊我哋嘅防線。而家已經係一個騷亂嘅情況，我呼籲市民唔好進入金鐘一帶。我喺度亦都想嚴厲譴責呢啲暴徒不負責任嘅行為。 因為佢哋如果係表達意見嘅話，係唔需要傷害其他人，包括我嘅同事同埋一啲無辜嘅人士。
U.S. President Donald Trump touted that he called a beautiful and very warm letter that he received from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He said the letter confirmed that his administration and Pyongyang have a very good relationship together.
So I see that, and I just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un, and I think the relationship is very well, but I appreciated the letter. I saw the information about the CIA with respect to his brother or half-brother, and I would tell him that would not happen under my auspices, that's for sure. I wouldn't let that happen under my auspices. But I just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un. I can't show you the letter, obviously, but it was a very personal, very warm, very nice letter. I appreciate it. And I'll say it again. I think that North Korea has tremendous potential, and he'll be there. I think that North Korea, under his leadership, but North Korea, because of what it represents, the people are great, the land is great, the location is incredible between Russia, China, and South Korea. I think North Korea has tremendous potential, and the one that feels that more than anybody is Kim Jong-un. He gets it. In the meantime, no nuclear testing, no major missile testing, nothing like when I first got here. When I first got here, it was a bad mess. We have a very good relationship together. Now I can confirm it because of the letter I got yesterday. And I think, I think that something will happen that's going to be very positive. But in the meantime, we have our hostages back. The remains keep coming back. We have a relationship.
Despite widespread perceptions that the last summit held in Hanoi in February was a failure, Trump said he would be open to a third meeting.
There's no large, long-range missiles going up. The only thing he set up were very...
When Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump shook hands before the world's cameras in Singapore a year ago on Wednesday, they pledged change and progress. But now they are gripped by diplomatic recriminations after a failed second meeting in Hanoi. In Singapore, the first ever summit between a sitting U.S. president and a North Korean leader, Kim signed a vaguely worded deal on denuclearization, touted by Trump as a historic breakthrough. But the second meeting in Vietnam in February ended abruptly without even a scheduled lunch after the two failed to agree on what the North would be willing to give up in exchange for sanctions relief. The process remains deadlocked, and analysts say the two sides have sobered up since.
Well, immediately after Singapore summit, we had a tidal wave of completely unrealistic, almost comical expectations. Because it was officially advertised that North Koreans were going to surrender nuclear weapons. Everybody with any knowledge of the situation fully understood that it was not going to happen.
Kim declared an end to nuclear tests and long-range missile launches last year amid a rapid rapprochement paving the way for the Singapore meeting. Since Hanoi, Pyongyang has accused Washington of acting in bad faith and given it until the end of the year to change its approach. And last month, the North fired short-range missiles for the first time since November 2017.
If no deal is reached, if we are not going to have any kind of noticeable breakthrough by the, say, early next year, well, we will probably see a full-scale, if you like, provocations, tensions building by the North Koreans.
We're signing a very important document, pretty comprehensive document, and we've had
A 5-year-old boy who tested positive for Ebola in Uganda has died, a health ministry official told AFP Wednesday, in the first spread of a deadly outbreak in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. The official said the child was likely to be buried Wednesday. Uganda's health ministry on Tuesday said that the mother of the child was a Congolese citizen married to a Ugandan. She had traveled with the child and 4 other family members back home to nurse her father, who eventually died from Ebola. Uganda has been on high alert since the outbreak across a porous border in the eastern DRC, where more than 2,000 cases of the highly contagious virus have been recorded, 2/3 of which have been fatal. Indian authorities are evacuating more than 250,000 people on Wednesday as a severe cyclone in the Arabian Sea is expected to make landfall in the western state of Gujarat. This would be India's second major storm of the season. Cyclone Vayu is poised to hit the Gujarat coast early Thursday, with winds gusting up to 170 kilometers per hour, or that's 106 miles per hour, according to India's Meteorological Department. Workers from 39 National Disaster Response Force teams are evacuating people from low-lying areas. By contrast, more than 1 million people were evacuated ahead of Cyclone Fani, which hit India's eastern coast on the Bay of Bengal in May killing 34 people. President Duterte called on Filipinos to ensure that the dream of a truly independent Philippines is achieved within their lifetime. In his Independence Day message, President Duterte described the country's proclamation of independence as the most significant event in Philippine history. However, he noted that our ancestors had to pay a price before it was realized. He enjoined Filipinos to make the most out of our ancestors' sacrifices. Hong Kong stocks tumbled as the city was rocked by a massive protest against government plans for a controversial extradition law. In scenes that revived memories of the 2014 Occupy movement, traffic was brought to a standstill and government offices blocked as crowds demonstrated against a government plan to allow extraditions to China, which was due to be debated Wednesday. Campaigners have warned that the law would entangle people in the mainland's opaque courts and hammer Hong Kong's reputation as an international business hub. The protests led authorities to delay the reading of bill to a later date. The Hang Seng Index tumbled 1.73%, or that's 480.88 points, to 27,308.46. The benchmark Shanghai Composite Index shed 0.56%, or 16.34 points, to 2,909.38. And the Shenzhen Composite Index, which tracks stocks on China's second exchange, lost 0.64%, or that's 9.83 points, to 1,528.40. The UN's International Labour Organization has started centenary celebrations in Geneva. Addressing dignitaries at the beginning of the gathering, Director General of the ILO, Guy Ryder, reminded them that workers' rights are more important than ever. Watch this.
You are here because you share the vision and the confidence of Albert Thomas and the conviction that it is within our grasp to generate the conditions for decent work for all, in which enterprises prosper, people succeed, and societies progress. The fact is that the future of work is not predetermined. It will not be decided for us, not by robots, not by artificial intelligence. These matter, of course, and much else does as well. But the fact is that the future of work will be the result of our decisions, our choices, our capacity to follow up on them, our willingness to cooperate together, and to make the future of work the one that we want.
A completely hand-painted video game is set to launch this summer. Earth Night took around 7 years of delicate painting to create. Gamers are now able to try out the indie game about a dragon apocalypse at the E3 Video Game Expo in Los Angeles. Many video games have been described as works of art, but that's quite literally the case with Earth Night by Philadelphia-based Cleversoft. Studio head Rich Spiegel says it took artist Paul Davy around 7 years to paint the detailed platforming game. The characters were over 350 frames each, All in all, the game includes tens of thousands of frames.
I think a lot of video games are true works of art, but for me this is the greatest work of art of my lifetime. And it's a combination of a lot of disciplines: music, writing, game design, which is absolutely an art, and obviously all the painting that went down. This is the first thing in my life where I'm putting out something that will outlast me, that will can be enjoyed by people and be there forever. And it wasn't something I set out to do, but for Paul Davey, the artist, I certainly think it was. Representation matters. There are no young female black protagonists in video games, and especially not of this fidelity. And I hope people can see themselves in Sydney. She's a dragon slayer. She's a Super Saiyan little girl. I think we're making a statement on a whole bunch of different levels, but this is meant to be a work of art that people can enjoy, a living painting that you can play in.
The game follows heroine Sydney, a young black girl who must stop dragons from taking over the earth. The game is procedurally generated, which means data is created using algorithms instead of manual creation. And so the game is different every time it is played. The game is set to launch exclusively on PlayStation this summer. The Electric Entertainment Expo, now simply known as E3, opens June 11 to 13.
French video game company Ubisoft has launched its own subscription service at E3 in Los Angeles. As the games industry follows music and movies from physical hardware to digital downloads and streaming, the company is also courting controversy, unveiling a new title that presents a dystopian vision of post-Brexit London. Take a look. At the annual E3 Games Expo in LA, French video game company Ubisoft is introducing gamers to its new PC gaming subscription service called Uplay Plus. It offers over 100 games, including new releases, and will cost gamers $14.99 a month. That's more than Microsoft's $10 a month Xbox Game Pass, but less than PlayStation's Now streaming service that is $20 for 1 month subscription.
You'll get earliest available access to new games, including the premium editions with all their additional content. And you can enjoy the depth of our PC catalog that includes over 100 games and growing.
Ubisoft is courting controversy with one of its newest titles, Watch Dogs Legion. The new game presents a dystopian vision of post-Brexit London, where there's an immigration crisis of people trying to re-enter the EU. Gamers play as people fighting the authoritarian regime in a resistance movement called DeadSec. A new feature means gamers can recruit and play as any character in the game, each with their own backstory and skills, meaning there's not one main character.
Watch Dogs Legion is set in London, one of the greatest cities in the world, and it's had a massive influence on all of our culture for centuries. Today, with Brexit, London's at a turning point. It's hard to predict what the future holds for London, for the UK, or for the world. But history has proven time and again that where London goes, all of us go together.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo is not only known for their lingap activities around the world, the members of the church also regularly conducts environment-related activities worldwide, such as the recent cleanup drive held in South Korea. Watch this.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo, Church of Christ of District of South Korea, has organized a super cleanup drive as part of the humanitarian activities and to raise awareness to have a trash-free place.
On May 9, 2019,
volunteers from the Iglesia Ni Cristo get together at a local congregation of Ansan, South Korea, and get ready for a day that includes street sweeping and collecting trash. The cleanup drive was held in Kongjun River that runs across Bagyo-dong. Since 2015, the members of Iglesia Ni Cristo in South Korea donated their time and energy to collect trash, clean up human waste on park grounds and creeks, start awareness campaigns against poverty, and donate blood. These projects have opened doors to church members connecting with Korean people. The cooperation engendered by humanitarian service often becomes a means for sharing the gospel. The Iglesia Ni Cristo is one of the fastest growing indigenous Christian churches in the world, and in the past years, its civic engagements have expanded through greater assistance, charity dedicated to the poor and those affected by calamities, and other philanthropic projects around the world. These initiatives are typically articulated in terms of unity, duty, and obedience to God. This kind of activity aims to extend outreach services to the Korean community where the INC members can express love and kindness. The group also believes that true love, after all, is best shown in action. Results aim to instill awareness and educate the public on the single-use, disposable plastic products that often end up on bodies of water, such as rivers, streams, and even on the beaches and in the oceans. As it is our humble duty to keep the environment clean and green and free from plastic waste, this very small contribution to our environment will make a big difference.
Ang Iglesia Ni Cristo po ay nagsasagawa ng ganito pong mga aktibidad para nang sa ganon ay patuloy po na maipakita natin sa mga komunidad na kung saan nandoon po ang mga kapatid ang ating pong pagdamay at pagtulong sa kanila. Dito po sa dakong ito o sa komunidad nito, ang isa sa maitutulong po ng Iglesia ay ang tayo po ay makatulong sa kalinisan at kaayusan nitong dakong ito.
Tuwing kailan po ginagawa ang mga ganitong aktibidad?
Ito po ay pamalagian na sa loob po halos ng isang taon ay humahanap tayo ng petsa o panahon na kung saan ay maaari tayong makalabas para tayo po ay makapaglinis.
So ano po magiging benefits ito sa komunidad ng mga Koreans?
Sa atin mga kaanib sa Iglesia, una ay makilala nila na tayo po bilang mga Pilipino, nakaanib po sa Iglesia Ni Cristo ay may ganitong mga aktibidad para po kahit paano ay makatulong tayo sa kanila.
I wanted to participate in this activity because I wanted to do good to the people of this world, and I wanted to be one with the church administration. Is to show the people of this world that we're united as one church and that we can do good to the men in this world.
As it is our humble duty to keep our environment clean and green and free from plastic waste, this very small contribution to our environment will make a big difference. This is Arvia Biero, your EBC correspondent from South Korea, and I am one with 25.
Kevin Durant loves to play basketball, and the people that questioned whether he wanted to get back to his team were wrong. Golden State's president of basketball operations, Bob Myers. On the night of his return, Golden State Warriors star Kevin Durant exited Game 5 of the NBA Finals against the Toronto Raptors with an Achilles injury. Durant grabbed his right leg after planting and turning the ball over early in the second quarter on Monday. Durant was ruled out for the game early in the third quarter and is scheduled for an MRI on Tuesday. He was seen leaving Scotiabank Arena on crutches and with a walking boot. Durant, who was playing for the first time since suffering a calf injury on May 8th, was helped off the courts by teammates and trainers. Warriors GM Bob Myers said Durant's latest injury is different than the previous one. Durant was dribbling on the right wing and came up lame, falling to the floor and needing help to get back to the Warriors bench area. He didn't stop there and limped to the Warriors locker room, yelling an expletive before leaving in obvious frustration. Kawhi Leonard scored 26 points for the Raptors but couldn't get the final shot, having to give the ball up.
Unfortunately, what happened to Kevin Durant? Iguodala right up into him.
Kevin had it's an Achilles injury. I don't know the extent of it. He'll have an MRI tomorrow. Prior to coming back, he went through 4 weeks with our medical team, and it was thorough, and it was experts and multiple MRIs and multiple doctors, and we felt good about the process. He was cleared to play tonight. That was a collaborative decision. I don't believe there's anybody to blame, but I understand this world. And if you have to, you can blame me. I run our basketball operations department. And let me tell you something about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant loves to play basketball, and the people that questioned whether he wanted to get back to this team were wrong.
And credit Serge Ibaka. And there's the play right away. He knew it. You will not see a better sight than we just witnessed. Unfortunately, what happened to Kevin Durant? Iguodala right up into him. 5 to shoot.
In other news, Migrant Workers Day celebrates the Filipino bravery, hard work, and love. Eliza Manglikmot reports.
To express gratitude to Filipino migrants in the United States for their bravery, hard work, and love of the motherland, the Philippine Embassy here in D.C. opened its doors for Migrant Workers Day, a day of celebration, services, and a showcase of Filipino food and culture.
We are giving thanks and giving this day to our migrant workers to make them fully aware that they are the reason why we have a landmark legislation. It's a landmark legislation because this is a legislation that looks at labor migration at a very comprehensive perspective, no? From recruitment, deployment, even to integration and reintegration.
What is one of the most common problems or conflicts that you help find solution to pagdating po sa mga migranteng manggagawa?
Actually, of course, we have to understand that the Philippine government, as a matter of policy, does not encourage labor migration. But since we also respect their right to labor mobility, when they go overseas, work overseas, and decide to do that, then the government must provide protection mechanisms. No? So, ito mga problema from the most common contract violation, no, to the most complex issues of abuse, no, of our workers, different forms of abuse from physical to psychological. Dito naman sa US, wala pa tayong, hindi naman natatanggap natin yung mga kaso na physical, no. Syempre may mga problema with the employers when their contracts, the contractual provisions are not complied with. So these are some of the issues, but beyond that also we have issues of our workers being sent here na may malaking binabayaran sa Pilipinas, no? Yung mga ating mga recruitment agencies, we're trying to check them because hindi naman pupunta dito pupunta ang mga Pilipino sa labas, no, para makapag-ipon. Paano kung malaking utang na nila sa Pilipinas pa lang, no? So these are some of the issues that we are confronted with.
Migrant workers Maria, Yolanda, Epifania, and Sarah, all brought here by diplomat employers, say they are lucky for having such great bosses. One thing they all struggle with, however, is the ever-present and difficult companion, homesickness. But thanks to modern technology, distance is now easier to overcome.
namimiss ko yung family ko kasi napakalayo po nila. Tapos, lalo na sa amin, probinsya, walang signal yung internet. So, siguro ang tagal ng kailangan pumunta ng city para makontak sila. So, yun, isa po yun sa yung namimiss ko yung family ko po. Ang pinaka mahirap.
Kung naho-homesick po ako, may way po gaya ng internet, kaya para sa anak. Pero gagawin po lahat para sa mga anak, para lang mabigyan sila ng magandang buhay at mapag-aral sila.
Ang mahirap pag nasa malayo ka, yung homesick, at saka yung kahit may sakit ka, kailangan mong magtrabaho. Buti na lang, mababait ang mga boss namin. Yun lang, considerate sila.
Sa homesick naman, sa ano na ngayon yung marami ng teknolohiya, so wala namang problema pagdating sa
Original Filipino music, a barong and barot saya presentation, plus nostalgic eats like the ever-comforting ice ube added to the already jovial ambience. Maria, Yolanda, Epifania, and Sarah appreciate events like this simply because being around Filipinos like themselves help them forget being away from home, even for a little while.
Nakakatulong po talaga kasi kung may problema ka, pwede kang lumapit dito. Tapos yung mga organisasyon po, malaking tulong po sa kanila sa atin. Kaya ng event na to, nakakawala po ng homesick.
Sa akin naman po, very happy na makakita ng mga Filipino dito. Nakakawala ng lungkot kasi at least may nakita kang kalahi na Filipino kasi nakaka-miss po talaga sa Pilipinas.
Marami kang makikita mga kababayan, tapos doon mo makikita yung mga matagal mo na hindi nakikita kung minsan. Tapos, para lang kayong magkakapatid like ngayon. Kain na. After this, yeah.
All right, meanwhile, the Philippine Embassy and the Filipino community in Wellington celebrated the 121st anniversary of the proclamation of the Philippine Independence. Our EBC correspondent Greg Besa reports from New Zealand.
In a cloudy and cold weather conditions, the officers and staff of the Philippine Embassy, along with the members of the Filipino community in Wellington, New Zealand, gathered today at the Embassy Chancery to celebrate the 121st anniversary of the promulgation of Philippine Independence. The celebration was started by a flag-raising ceremony and a prayer at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after which the Independence Day message of His Excellency, Mr. Rodrigo Duterte, President of the Republic of the Philippines, and the message of Honorable Teodoro Locsin Jr., Secretary of Foreign Affairs, was read by the Philippine Ambassador, His Excellency, Mr. Jesus Domingo. Both messages highlighted the significance of this year's theme, Courage and Compassion, which paid tribute to the great sacrifices by the Filipino patriots, heroes and martyrs in gaining independence from more than 3 centuries of colonial subservience. Right after the flag-raising ceremony, the Philippine ambassador and his wife, together with the embassy's other officers and staff, hosted a merienda cena during which Filipino cuisines and delicacies were served to those who attended the celebration. During the meaningful gathering, Ambassador Domingo emphasized once more the significance of the annual commemoration as he encouraged all Filipinos in New Zealand and the Pacific to work together to advance the Philippine interests.
Maligayang araw ng pasaligdan, mga kababayan dito sa New Zealand and the Pacific. So happy 121st anniversary of our proclamation of independence to all our countrymen and women and friends here in Aotearoa, New Zealand and in the Pacific. And our theme, of course, is Tapang at Malasakit, courage and compassion. So let's all work together to advance the Filipino community overseas, advance the interests of our nation, and the blossoming relations between New Zealand, Philippines, and the Pacific. Maraming salamat po.
On the other hand, Filipinos and Kiwinois who were in attendance wore traditional dresses, the Filipiniana and the Barong Tagalog, which further underscored the significance of the celebration. They also expressed their continuing love for their home country despite living far away from the Philippines.
Today is the 121st anniversary of Philippine
Independence Day. I've been here for a long time in New Zealand, but Independence Day in the Philippines is so special, such a special day for me. We are a sovereign country, we are an independent country, we are a strong country, and every Independence Day we take a voice and we pray for the country.
Independence Day message is that today marks the day where people are able to be reminded that our freedom is based on the hard work and the challenges that many faced in our past, and today also allows us to stay connected and remember that we are one as Filipinos.
From Wellington, New Zealand, this is Greg Besa. I am one with Net25.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles and
we're one with 25.